All right, so tonight I'm out here working on the lights in the light bar. This Morton's triple tree only comes with a single bolt hole, and a lot of the aftermarket lights only have the one bolt going down, and it's got a mount with a bolt welded in that goes through. But this lower triple is so thick that the bolts that go through there aren't long enough. I mean, well, it's from the bottom, it's hollowed out a little bit more, so theoretically I could put that through there and put a bolt up and through, but it's so small, trying to get a bolt in there, a nut in there is pretty difficult. So what I did is I got this plate, and the reason I did this is because I want to do a light bar, and doing the light bar up here would have the auxiliary lights even with the headlight. And I don't like the way this gap looks. It's just kind of big. Now, granted, once the air ride is in here and it's lowered, the fender is going to be up here, so it's not going to look as bad. But I wanted to have my auxiliary lights sitting a little bit lower than the headlight. So I got the plate, and obviously there's a 6.5 degree rake on there, so I had to bend that plate in order to fit. And now I'm going to work on my light bar to mount on there. Now, the plate on the light bar here is wider than the plate that's on the back. And I'm not a big fan of that, so I'll see what modifications I need to do. Maybe I'll cut the edges off here so that they kind of match up or something. And then these are the lights I have, which are going to be very similar to the headlights. Now, also what I did with the auxiliary lights, this is just too much going on under there. I know it's necessary, but I didn't like that gap and how that looked. It's just kind of ugly. So what I did is the mounting bracket I turned upside down, which meant that I needed to change the bolt and everything that went through there so it's smaller. Pardon, this one's not mounted up permanently yet, so I have those gaps there. You'll notice on this side, I have bushings that are going to go in there to fill it. But also what it does, on this side, you see how high the light sits up off of the bar. And then on this side, you see how close it is to the bar, which I think looks way better. And it's also going to bring the lights that much farther down in relation to the headlight. In order for me to do this and turn them upside down, I had to take a grinder to the sides of this, only because they are the same width as the little bracket here that goes on the outside where the spacer is. So I just had to grind that down a little bit in order for that to fit on upside down. This one hasn't changed yet. You can see how it's flat. But as soon as I try to turn this thing, hold on. As soon as I try to turn this bracket over, it's going to be, you see it's the same width there, so it's not going to work. So those edges have to be ground down in order to be able to flip that. But that's what I'm working on now. And when I come back, I'll probably have this all together and actually mount it on the bike, trying to determine what I'm going to do with this part. All right, see you in a few. So I've got the lights temporarily mounted. The one on your right in the video, which is the left auxiliary light, you see the difference in how it's mounted underneath. See, a lot less of this junk is visible, and you see the difference in the height of the light. Now, granted, the bar is sitting a little crooked, but even then, there's a good 2.5, 3 inches difference in the height, which makes a difference in how it's going to look once it's mounted up here next to the headlight. So just wanted to give you a view of that before I go ahead and swap the other one. So I'm just going to hit the edges of this right along probably the first 1.5 inches of this with the Zerk wheel. I'm only going to take it down maybe a 32nd of an inch on either side. Should be enough in order to get that clamp to ride along the sides of it. All right, so I just took the grinder to it, and you can see I just took a little bit off the sides. Sad that a little bit of that chrome came off there. I guess it doesn't matter because that's going to be completely covered. But you can see I took the edges down ever so slightly, and now that actually rides on there just the way it needs to. Had I not filed it down, this is equivalent to it. You see, it can't go flat on there because it's the same width. But then up here, it rides down exactly like I need it to. All right, I'll go ahead and put this one together. All right, so I got the lights mounted temporarily. I got to work with this in here. I don't like the way that looks. There's a lot going on, so I'll have to work with that a little bit to see what I can do to clean that up. But I do like the way the lights are offset. You see the auxiliary lights are slightly farther ahead of the headlight. I could actually move those to the back mount and cut off that piece in the front. And that'll move them back at what, about a half an inch, 3/4 of an inch. They'll still be ahead of the headlight, which I kind of like. And I do like the look of it from the front better like that. Now, this is at ride height. When it's, you know, the front end is lowered down, it'll be more like that. But at ride height, that gives plenty of clearance over the fender and should give plenty of light. And it's funny, if you guys ever saw the movie War of the Worlds, they the auxiliary lights look like the aliens when those little heads come in. But you know, they have the visors on there, so I gotta go with that VTX headlight. Hey, I wanted to give a shout out to one of our guys on the Facebook forums for the Roadstars, John Untalon. He's got that dark gray and purple lightning streak beast. We saw a lot of it a couple of weeks ago. He was posting some pictures. I wanted to give him a shout out because I liked the lights that he had on the front of his, and I called him up, or I chatted him and said, hey, you know, what kind of lights you have on there? I really like the look of that. And he filled me in that he had VTX 1800 lights on there. His auxiliary lights are nicer and the bar is nicer than mine, but I really did like the look. So I wanted to give him a shout out because that's the direction I ended up going. Ooh, gleamy. Got some streaks coming off the lights there, but that's what I ended up doing, is putting that VTX 1800 light on there, and found those auxiliary lights and bar on eBay relatively cheap. But I do like the look of it. I do like the final product, how it came out, and I just wanted to give him a proper shout out for that. Thanks, bro. Doing a test, I just hooked the Schrader valve into the air inlet. Like the way that looks. All right, I couldn't finish my front air ride until I finished some other things in the front. I've got it temporarily plumbed now, so the air lines are under the triples here, and just temporarily I've got some line coming through so I can test it for leaks. And so I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to stand here and hold it because right now it's sitting on a 4x6, and if I raise it up, it's probably going to fall over because I don't have the kickstand down. So let's give it a shot, see how she goes. That was a little noisy, but I'd say that is a successful test. As per usual, do it more than once, make sure it wasn't a fluke. Nice. So I still have to permanently plumb this and clean this up a little bit, figure out how I'm going to actually run the line back so that it's not overly exposed. But for a first test, that was pretty darn good. So I pulled the headlight off and went to work on this plate. You remember from the other clip, the plate attached to the light bar was actually wider than the plate that I got to adapt to the lower triple. So what I did is I went ahead and marked that, got my mini metal saw out and cut both those sides down, and took the Zerk wheel on the grinder and smoothed out the edges. I don't really care for this line here because obviously it's two plates and this is a separation. Don't know what I can do to fix that. I don't know. You know, run a bead there of weld and smooth it out so it looks like a smooth transition. I don't really know. But anyway, that's evened up. That looks much better with the exception of the line going across there for the overlap. Okay, since I'm going with a single front rotor, and I got a big 26-inch wheel and a very heavy bike, which is probably pretty light right now since I've got a bunch of stuff taken off of it. But I'm going with a single front rotor, so I decided to go with a 13-inch instead of the 11.8-inch. So I've got the 13-inch rotor, and I've got the HHI 6-pot or 6-piston caliper. So what I'm going to do right now is mock it up because, one, it's a bigger rotor, so it's not going to mount in the same place. Two, it's a different manufacturer of the caliper, so it's not going to mount into place. Thankfully, once I get it where it's supposed to be, The lower mounting hole is almost dead on, and so all I need to do is fabricate a mount that is going to, or an adapter piece to line up the upper hole for the caliper with the mounting hole on the fork. So that should actually be pretty easy instead of having to create something completely new and different. All right, so I'm sitting here trying to fabricate a different bracket to go with this HHI caliper with a 13-inch rotor. So I am mocking it up with wood. I've got the lower mount lined up, the upper mount lined up, and then this center hole is going to be the top hole of the HHI. So I think I'm pretty close, and we'll see how it goes. Well, cool. That worked out. So I've got my holes and everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a design of some sort on there that the mount or the bracket will actually look like. And then I'm going to send it out to somebody that most of us know, to have it plasma cut out of some steel. All right, looking good so far. So after mocking up my piece, I went out to the woodshed and cut it out. And this is what I came up with. Now I'm going to do a test fit for it. See how it fits. And there we have the mock-up. So, piece is cut, got a shape that I wanted, and I don't know, I may even put a design or something right there. But that is the fabricated mount to use a HHI 6-piston caliper, 13-inch rotor with our stock lower fork leg. As you can see, I put a couple of zip ties in here, and that's to create that space between the edge of the rotor, the edge of the rotor and the back of the caliper, so that the rotor is not rubbing on the back of the caliper. And that should be about 1/8 of an inch, maybe slightly more space than that. Now, send this thing out to a friend of ours to have it cut. Outstanding.